Well, let's get into this conversation now. South Africa says it will not ask G20 member countries to boycott the next meeting in Miami in Florida. This after US President Donald Trump said that South Africa would not be invited to the gathering next year. South African government stated that although it was dissatisfied with the United States' decision to exclude it from participating in G20 engagements, it did not want member states to boycott the multinational grouping. US President Donald Trump barred South Africa from taking part in G20 engagements under the US presidency due to what he calls white genocide claims in South Africa. Now, G20 Sherpa meeting currently underway in Washington with South Africa excluded. Professor John Stremlau, Department of International Relations at Wits University, joins us now. Prof, a very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for your time. So when we look at things, traditionally, the outgoing, current and incoming presidencies collaborate on the agenda. So South Africa's absence breaks this protocol. So when you look at that and the fact that Pretoria has also refused to call for a boycott of G20 meetings, instead formally asking members to place its exclusion on the agenda for the discussion, how likely is South Africa's exclusion being discussed among members, do you think?
Well, I don't pretend to have access to the quiet diplomacy that is going on. However, I want to make the general point that South Africa understands the difference between multipolar focus of regional hegemonies on Trump and identifies with, and multilateralism that is the business of the G20. South Africa brings out the worst in the Trump administration, and I think it's probably to the credit of South Africa and to the multilateral processes that is the G20. It is like a fire station. It is available for crises. It was created in the 2008 financial crisis. There is no crisis currently brewing, but the emphasis on multilateral consultation and consensus building is the right one for South Africa to pursue. And I hasten to note that in the summit this year here in Johannesburg, 19 of the Sherpas recommended to their principals that that there isn't a consensus, and so they issued one. That Trump doesn't understand this.
I want to touch on that point that you raised about multilateralism. I mean, could this dispute push South Africa towards other multilateral groupings? Example, if you look at BRICS, the AU engagements, and what might that mean for the G20's relevance? I'm just also touching on the fact that the reaction following that announcement by Trump, I mean, the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of China saying that China supports South Africa in continuing to participate in G20 cooperation, and that China looks forward to working with the country and all other G20 members, particularly to defend multilateralism.
Well, it's going to have to make some difference to the Trump administration, but I think that's a lost cause. South Africa brought out the worst in Trump in his executive order of back in February 7th, 2025, and it's been downhill ever since with the Trump administration. But the Trump administration is showing its true colors in its engagement with South Africa. It's sort of like Samson and Goliath. I mean, it's the U.S. is a much bigger country, and it's a regional hegemony. It's regional hegemony that is being asserted in Venezuela and in tolerance of South Africa's Russia's invasion of Ukraine because that is a rule breaker. That is a undermining of the multilateral order that is gradually taking form, and that South Africa, as a follower of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it's embedded in the framework of its constitution, is lobbying for multilateralism, but in a world of sovereign states. So it can't happen very quickly, but it is to the good cause. And here you have Cyril Ramaphosa with Modi and the Brazilian leader, and it's just fine. And God knows that the next chairman of the G20 is UK, followed by Republic of Korea. So they're certainly democracies, and Trump is an autocrat, an inclined autocrat in a democracy. But I think his popularity is plummeting domestically, and so I don't think this is a big issue. I think South Africa is sticking to its guns, and Vincent McKenna's statement was absolutely appropriate. That this is not a gathering to boycott or advocate boycotting, but they should register their concern with the exclusion of South Africa. It's not for it's technically correct of a sovereign country to deal that with, but it's not with the legitimacy of multilateral processes, and Trump doesn't understand.
Prof, as we wrap up our conversation, of course, you keep on saying that South Africa is bad news for the U.S., so to speak. When we look at, just on a broader G20 dynamics, where does South Africa go now? I mean, does South Africa's exclusion risk undermining the legitimacy of the G20 as a consensus-based forum, as it has been over the years, particularly when you look at the representation for the African continent and even the global South? I mean, how might this particular incident affect the role of the G20 Troika? You've spoke a little bit about that in terms of previous, current and incoming presidencies and future transitions of leadership. But I'm particularly worried about how this might look for a forum that is known for its consensus base and also the exclusion of largely the African continent.
Well, I don't think it's going to make much difference. It's just the opportunity costs are huge, and it would have been nice if the United States had followed South Africa in its spirit of South Africa, and not have this deviation under Trump. He doesn't know what he's doing, and I just think that it's the confusion of states' rights and human rights and multilateral processes, and he's not a scholar. He doesn't read, and he does dominate the U.S., but he did get elected and duly processed, but he's going to be thrown out of office, and he can't succeed himself. And I'm not going to not clear that he can ever change the Constitution of the United States. So we're going to have to fight this out as Americans, and the rest of the world will have to watch. But it's never going to be the same. And I think South Africa should rest on its laurels of the 2025 G20 and stick to its principles, and it's been very clear about those principles. And the government of national unity, Schreiber was just on, and it shows the foolishness of Trump's talking about white genocide down here. I mean, I'm perfectly happy down here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Prof, for your views. Professor John Stremlau, Department of International Relations at Wits University, saying South Africa should stick to its roles and also stick to its principles.